Hello, this is Arhkma, and welcome back to another Kaiserreich HOI4 video. This was played on the newest update as of writing, 0.24.1, but instead of going to China where the update is, I'm playing Bulgaria. Also, we're using the Moe-Reich mod because sometimes I don't want to look at old decaying people who represent repressive and cruel systems of government. But...
What if it was a catgirl?
Right, Bulgaria. So, unlike Austria, who I last played in this mod, Bulgaria kinda has a bunch of things to do immediately, and not much room for error. Let's start with our geopolitics. As a member of the Central Powers, we were a part of the Winners Club in this timeline. As such, we took a lot of land from our immediate neighbors, and they're a bit mad about it. They are all rearming, and since they all share a border with us, we really need to prepare. Unfortunately, the Ottomans also want to take some of our land, so we have 4 different countries to cover, and that's just untenable. To make things worse, the internals of Bulgaria can best be described as a litter box that hasn't been cleaned in 20 years. Bulgaria's government is on the verge of collapse. A mix of economic failure, an unpopular authoritarian bill that was supposed to end resistance in our new territory, and the military being a bunch of fascist losers means we gotta sort some things out. The main part of this is deciding what government you want going into the Balkan War. If you mess up at all, you get the army coup resulting in the Zveno taking power. Cringe! If you can get enough votes in parliament, you can repeal the State Protection Act and establish a firm democracy in the kingdom. Or you can go with the third option, which is what I will be doing. At the start of the game, our POV character is the Prime Minister, who is supporting Prince Boris and upholding the monarchy as the absolute authority over the government. To do this, we have to do our focuses in a somewhat strict way, making sure to do the force BTB to absorb Bratia Bukulovi and dousing the powder keg focuses when the game demands it. Or else, it's coup time. After doing those and enough time passing, we'll have properly asserted the Tsar's power, forming a quote-unquote democracy, which is really just a unitary party where the Tsar essentially dictates what'll happen. With the government somewhat sorted, let's start preparing for the inevitable war in the Balkans. So, the dousing the powder keg focus leads into some other good focuses. German support, handling the Serbs in our territory, but most importantly, the mission to Constantinople. Fighting a war with Romania, Serbia, and Greece? Not too bad. Also, fighting the Ottomans on a completely separate front is near impossible, and I'm not going to try that. Doing the focus gives us events where we accept concessions for a non-aggression pact, which I agree to. I'll think about slightly amending this later, but for now it'll save a lot of time. On the troop front, at the beginning of the game, I switched all my fielded units to the 2nd Infantry template that has artillery in it, as Bulgaria's early army and generals have a fetish for the big boomsticks. Afterwards, I built some mountaineers to help cover the Serbian and Greek borders. Jump to 1937, and it's wartime. I've positioned my divisions in what I think is the easiest to hold. Greece will be the focus of attacks, but some micro will be needed on all fronts for the defensive. Now this will pop up at some point if you're playing Bulgaria, but I got it early. Our only friend in the Balkans, Albania, will ask to form an alliance with us and to join the war. Now, this means that both countries will guarantee each other long-term, but now they will add another front. I usually don't accept it if this comes mid-war, as it expands the amount of territory that needs protection, but this time I went with it. It ended up being a net positive, as the few troops there helped to interfere with the Greek and Serbian fronts, and I found some unorthodox ways to penetrate the enemy lines. The Greeks are typically the first to go. They are completely isolated from their allies and start the war attacking us in mountains. They quickly lose strength and equipment because of that. I pushed through the center quickly, and with some okay micro, managed to encircle a majority of their army as they attempt to push into Albania. Once they capitulate, it's off to the Serbian front, which has gotten a little silly as the province shapes can be a tad confusing. This ends up working out, as an opening in the Serbian line allows my troops to quickly snake into Serbia, seizing the capital and capitulating them. It also resulted in some Russian volunteers getting encircled, which were taken out off-screen. Serbia then asks for peace, but I have so much momentum that I reject it. Romania is a tougher nut to crack, and always the scariest of the Balkan Pact members. I tend to push from the west to the east, though pushing somewhere in the center or east would probably result in easier encirclements. I do manage to encircle Bucharest anyways, but we have to reach the north in order to capitulate them. With the war over, it's time to annex everybody, take their navies, and let Albania have Kosovo. The final division of land is a little interesting. The newest update allowed me to give Montenegro to Illyria, which I ended up doing as it would be less land to hold. I released the Kingdom of Greece as a puppet, but Serbia and Romania would be fully occupied. I want their resources and no more shenanigans from them. This does mean having to deal with the Chetniks in Serbia, which is essentially sending the army to garrison a province wherever they move around. It's dealt with rather easily, but it's like a fun, small minigame. So what now? We have a lot of focuses to rebuild the country, establish the government, and some post-Balkan War stuff. Since Serbia and Romania have been banished to the Shadow Realm, we are locked out of some of the focuses, but it doesn't matter too much. So, what to do next? We could join the Reichspakt now, but I really don't want to at the moment. So instead, I start work on my pet project, the heavy tank. I've done a few Bulgaria attempts that I didn't quite like prior to this, so the heavy tank was going to be my fun concept division this time, using the focus-specific tank division but replacing the light tanks with heavies. I also send said tank division to Haiti and do a little trolling. Some more time passes, and it's now 1939. The Ottomans are getting ruled by the Cairo Pact in Iran, and I've decided that we're going to go on a tour of the Middle East. Once the Weltkrieg starts, because I don't have a war goal, and I can't justify one until it starts. Now jump to March of 1940, and Russia invades from the east. With Europe on fire, I take my first steps into the Ottoman Empire, which goes extremely well. In the peace deal, I give Greece some stuff and bring back the Ottoman Empire. On the issue of Western Anatolia, I made the righteous decision to give neither Greece nor the Ottomans the land. Instead, I would act as a buffer between the two by holding it. I am a master peacekeeper. We're not done yet. To make it up to the Ottomans for breaking our non-aggression pact, killing many of their people, and turning them into a rump state in the mountains, I thought I'd take out its former Arab enemies and give them some land back. So, into Syria. This war was not bad. In fact, the lack of Iraq in the war meant a quick and easy push through Syria, Egypt, and Hejaz. But look at them now. It's like the Ottomans never left. Well, we were still missing parts of Iraq and Iran, so I guess we'll finish the job. There's not much to say, though. My tanks go brrrr, and the infantry are not too far behind. We also get Azerbaijan in the deal, so it's a nice bonus. With the Middle East finally destabilized, it's time to actually join the Reichspakt and fight this war. The Second Weltkrieg is in an interesting spot. Russia is getting absolutely dumpstered, but France and Italy have made decent gains. Spain, a part of the Entente, got bodied rather quickly. Japan is also at war with us, so things are a bit balanced. My initial front is in the Caucasus and Central Asia, so things just take time. The Caucasus front goes smoothly with my heavy tanks. The Austrians actually help in the area's encirclement by coming in from the north. The Central Asian front from Iran is a bit trickier, but it's mostly my infantry doing whatever they can there. The next task for the heavy tanks was securing the Western Front. First, they arrived in southern Germany, where I managed to get several encirclements. This eventually pushed the French out of Germany. During this time, the Russians gave up the ghost, so I took some stuff in Central Asia to release his puppets. This means we can focus entirely on the Western Front now. After some more encirclements, the big breakthrough came in the very north, where I pushed for Normandy, then Brittany, and then drifted south from there. I may as well have tried encircling all of France. As they neared the end, I moved my tanks and infantry to Italy to try and assist there to good results. In an interesting turn of events, the Union of Britain decided to make peace with the Reichspakt, but stayed in the war with the Entente. The Germans also gave the French exiles their land back, so we win. Yay! So, what's next? Well, I managed to take Yucatan from Mexico, as well as Armenia as a puppet. But we don't have any focus-related things to do. I am at war with Japan, but they are pretty far away from me. Thinking back on the game, I realized I hard focused on going east, so what's east of the Middle East? India, which has been united by Hyderabad. I bet. With the justification ready, the war starts, but I kinda can't hold. For whatever reason, the Iranian-Indian border is near impossible to hold even with the terrain. Instead, I left that to the other Reichspakt members while I prepared for other things. Namely, the fact that the Union of Britain declared war on us again, and just before that had been bodying the Entente, so back to the west. After saving France for the second time, I prepared all of the navies I've stolen and many planes to attempt to naval invade Britain. To my dismay, I am not very good at that, and the Isles are pretty well defended despite all of the armies they've already lost. The first attempt, didn't go to plan.
Oh my god, if I can free these guys, that would be awesome. Come on. No, they died.
The second attempt was a bit better, but was definitely dancing with failure. With the south secure, the rest was pretty easy, as the heavy tanks continued to put in the work. In the peace deal, I took Wales and puppeted it, while Canada took the rest of Britain. Now that Europe is firmly done, back to India, and where I start hating everything. I managed an alright encirclement in Iran before preparing a naval invasion of Sri Lanka, which manages to go alright. I also tried to help in Siam, but quickly moved out when it started going bad, and India was the true focus. Naval invading India proper is hard, like really hard. The South barely has any ports, they have at least 400 divisions, and trying to punch through with non-marine divisions is near impossible. That's where the tactical bombs I've been building up come into play. I dropped the first bomb of the game on Pondicherry, but it still takes a long time before I actually land. I have to act quickly so that I don't get pushed out. I managed an alright line, but the mass assault by the Indians really hurt. After some time, I managed a small offensive that encircles the port of Madras, which really helped the supply. With the port taken, I attempted to secure the south, encircling what I could while establishing a better front line. This resulted in a scary situation where my northern line started getting pushed, and as my only ports are there, I had to rush back to reinforce. Thus starts the grand battle for India. Finally, after some seriously brutal fighting, India is down. Annexing the entirety of the continent, I then butchered the hell out of it. This is India now. We're not done yet though. We still are fighting Japan, but also now China, as at some point they declared war on the Reichspakt, so even further east we go. Okay, maybe the excitement isn't really necessary. China was already losing, and I just gave some cheerleading support before they capitulated. Shoutouts to Sweden for being one of the main contributors to the fight. Japan similarly turned out to be rather weak, as they had lost to China much earlier in the game. A clear example of this is that the port of Nagasaki was completely open, and the push into the rest of Japan went just as smoothly. With their capitulation, the game is truly over. Bulgaria has proven a worthy, if devious, ally of the Reichspakt. Before I end the video, some fun small notes on this campaign. So, at the end of the game, my puppeting of Wales drew the ire of the British, who demanded I give it back. I said no, and they backed off. So know that Wales is a potential World War III flashpoint. Also, the US. The US had its full civil war, with the winner being the Pacific states. I mention this because of all 3 of my Bulgaria playthroughs for this video, they won all 3 times, and every time they were pushed to the brink of defeat before somehow reversing the tide completely. Good for them. They ended up staying neutral this game, which is why I really didn't get a chance to mention them. I think that's everything. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time whenever I have another HOI4 game that's funny, interesting, maybe some other third thing, I don't know.